Recently, shockwaves rattled Washington with Marjorie Taylor Greene's announcement that she'll resign from Congress, citing a political climate where division now rules over duty. Greene described the environment in Washington as increasingly toxic, calling out a broken system she can, quote, no longer serve everyday Americans.
When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it.
Yeah, this at a time when politics feel more polarizing than ever. One national group is trying to pull Americans back from the extremes by getting people to talk, listen, and find some common ground. Let's welcome in Maury Giles, CEO of 11Alive, to discuss what Greene's exit says about the widening political divide that's going on and whether efforts at bridging the gap, if you will, can offer a path forward. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here, and couldn't agree more that that announcement not only sent shockwaves, but it also modeled something that we think is pretty important, that Americans need to pay attention. And it's what we expect in terms of the way we live and the way we behave, but in the people that we send to represent us. So there's a lot going on there, and certainly couldn't agree more that the framework around division has accelerated to a point that we at 11Alive feel pretty passionate about the need to touch people one-on-one, community by community, to make a difference on this.
Yeah, you talk about courageous citizenship. What does that look like in a moment when many feel like politics is far beyond repair here?
Absolutely. When we talk courageous citizenship, what we mean is intentionally engaging in human connection across division. It's the idea that I actually do have my part in this whole process, that yes, I can feel like I have no control because everything I see in my elected officials and in Congress not getting things done. But it has to start with us first, acknowledging our part in the system. Washington called it citizen being the most important role in a democratic republic, in a constitutional republic. That's our part of it. It's choosing to recognize that I can act instead of react, and then I can act together locally. And in doing that, I start to realize that I can work with the people that I choose to, and then put different people into office and be able to support those that are engaging in a way that's about problem solving rather than about tribal warfare.
Maury, what would you say is the most damaging misconception that Republicans and Democrats tend to have about one another right now?
Well, first off, we used to just say that you're right and I'm wrong. Now we say you're evil. It's no longer about me being right and being wrong. It's you're evil. And those labels in the industrial outrage complex, or what we often talk about as conflict entrepreneurs, they put those labels there because they make us feel like the other person must be choosing something that's threatening my existence because they're evil. That's just not true. Republicans and Democrats, Americans, are not evil. Sure, there's going to be the very small minority that have malicious intent, but the vast majority don't. Those labels aren't right.
Yeah. Do you think the political polarization has reached the new peak, or are we just stuck in this long plateau?
I think polarization's been around forever, but the toxicity of it is what's reached a powerful level. But I actually believe a lot of the data we're seeing right now of people saying America's best days are in our past, or we can't solve problems, I actually see that in a positive spin of saying maybe we're at the point where enough of us are recognizing that this isn't healthy, it's not sustainable. So if any country in the world can change that trajectory, it's this one, because ultimately we're the ones that have that power.
And how do you get people who, and I got 45 seconds here left, how do you get people who don't want to talk to each other show up in the same room together?
First, you got to have courage. That's why we say courageous citizenship. And the second thing is, when you start feeling the anxiety and frustration, what someone else is saying, stop and ask this question. Tell me more about your life experience that shapes the way you view this issue. When you do that, you'll see them as a person, they'll see your interest in them, and you'll discover you have a lot more in common than you have difference. Then you can build on those shared values.
All right, Maury Giles, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for your insight. Appreciate what you're doing.